From the former convent of the Good Shepherd overlooking Inwood Hill Park in New York City, welcome to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where you meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes who make their home in what we affectionately call Upstate Manhattan. I'm your host, Aaron Sims, and today we welcome filmmaker Dylan Tuccillo. Dylan is an award-winning writer, video producer, and filmmaker. While attending NYU's Tisch School of the Arts, a feature screenplay that he wrote won a $10,000 award from the Sloan Foundation. A recent short documentary of his was picked up by Upworthy and viewed over 270,000 times. After 15 years of working with advertising agencies and companies, he's learned how to market content in a media-saturated landscape. His short films have won Best Short at the Inwood Film Festival, Best Director at the Austin Revolution Film Festival, and awards at the Las Vegas Film Festival and the First Run Film Festival. In 2016, he filmed a rare interview of former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger for the French American Foundation. In 2017, he himself was interviewed by NPR's Brian Lehrer. As a freelance producer and video editor, Dylan has been hired to create content for Ann Taylor, Johnson & Johnson, IBM, Bayer, Berlitz, Columbia University, and Vogue, to name a few. In 2013, his nonfiction book about dreams, A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, was published by Workman, co-authored with two friends. The book was translated into 11 languages and is on its 7th printing, selling over 75,000 copies. We're going to talk to him about his work on and behind the camera and so much more. But first, let me welcome you, Dylan, to Inwood Artworks On Air. It's good seeing you.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Aaron. Thanks for having me to this wonderful event here.
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's cooling down a little bit outside. We could actually breathe real air. And it's a busy summer, and I'm always juggling different creative projects as you're listing off. But feeling pretty good. Excited for the fall, you know. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great being able to do this still. I was telling Dylan earlier, it's like we've already hit over 100 episodes for this podcast, and it's like there's no shortage of crazy, talented people in this neighborhood like yourself. And so it's great to be able to sit back and going, wow, yet another awesome person I can spend time with. Yeah.
I lived in Inwood for a good 6 years or something, and I miss it every time I'm back in the neighborhood. I look at just the park and I just see all the kind of my spots. You know, I had my spots, and I just been freelancer, so I lived at home, and I just spend a lot of the day just walking around different cafes, writing. I remember riding my bike for a few weeks every single day over to what was Indian Road Cafe, and just sitting there and writing, and it just felt like a very calm place to be a creative person.
It was.
Which is what as I'm one of those sensitive, dark, creative people. You need some quiet. Midtown isn't always helpful. You know, you need some trees help just to calm down the nerves.
Well, you're not too far away. That's why I say you still frequent us very often.
Yeah, so. I come a lot, and I feel like I'm still kind of a semi-resident because I'm involved so much with what you got going on, and I've got a lot of friends in the neighborhood and working with other creatives. So
yeah, we're going to touch on that too.
Still get my roots here.
That's right. Well, let's go back to the root of the root here, The Tunnel, which was the first film we ever did with you at Inwood Film Festival, I believe, right?
We're going way back,
I think we have to.
Yeah, let's go back.
You know why? Because I'm being selfish here, because it ranks up with one of my all-time favorite shorts. And it won an award for excellence in filmmaking at the Inwood Film Festival, I believe. And we've gone on to present it at our outdoors, I believe. We did once at our Filmmakers Al Fresco and our short film Fridays during the pandemic. I think we put it out there as well, perhaps. Can you tell me, can you tell I'm passionate about the film. Can you tell our listeners what was the spark that inspired that screenplay?
Yeah, so the movie, for all you listeners, is about a small person, basically a little plastic figurine that comes to life within a railroad train set and is now sentient and just a human, but he doesn't really know where he is. He doesn't know what a train set is. All he knows is that he's come to life, and now he's living in this plastic world with a bunch of plastic figurines. Nothing else is sentient, so he has to just kind of create his own reality and make do. And that's not all so much clear maybe for some viewers until the end of the film, but that is kind of the mystery that we end up solving hopefully at the end if people get it. But yeah, with the spark that inspired it, I think I had the idea of of that idea of figurine come to life, someone living, a miniature person living a miniature world. But I remember putting into my kind of like idealist and saying, I'm not going to be able to pull that off. That's like an idea if I get a giant budget for some commercial shoot or whatever it is. But then I think a year or two later, I thought about it. I'm like, well, maybe there's some kind of like, what is a way to pull it off? Just if it were possible, what would be that way? And I started researching around, and I found this museum in New Jersey that is it's like room after room of these model train set kind of setups, and it's just this like guy who made $1 million in like the original software bubble in the 90s and to decide to put it all into just the like maybe one of the world's largest railroad set displays.
That's awesome.
So it's just like you go room after room and you think it's almost over, and then it says like you've just completed 5% of this museum. So I saw pictures of that. I'm like, if I could film those sets, obviously zero budget, if the guy will allow me and doesn't ask for money, then it's almost the production value. You know, as filmmakers, we're always like, production value. How do I get that production value for free? So I'm like, ooh, beautiful production value. It's all set up. I don't have to do anything. So I forget what order it was in terms of writing the script, but I wrote the script. And then I emailed him, and he's one of those guys that's like, sure, come on by, whatever.
Love those people.
Yeah. And then you go and you thank him. He's like, oh, sure. Anyway, I got things to do because he's maintaining this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I shot those plates, special effects plates. And then I had been doing an acting class just after I'd been years out of school, but I just thought doing an acting class would help my directing. And there I met the actor Joe Jones, who I just thought was actually, we started the acting class on the same day, and we both were in a scene work together. And I'm just like, this guy's fantastic. He's got something about him. I want to see him as just existing in this world by himself. He's one of those people that could read the phone book, and he'd be interesting. So yeah, and then the script took shape, and I remember a friend helping me with the script and kind of reading through the first draft and saying, this is kind of the Plato's cave allegories. It's someone who suddenly comes into a new level of sentience and looks around them, but has to then hopefully leave into the real world. So yeah, that's where it came from. So through a few different kind of special effect techniques that we came up with, we placed Joe Jones into this train set world. Oh,
and Joe Jones has gone on to have a great career. Like he was in Daredevil, I think, recently.
He was,
over the past couple of years, and other things too. And I remember him at the film festival, though. He was a delight to have.
Yeah,
he was all worked up.
Yeah, he's one of those sweet guys who will call me every year or two just to check in and be like, "How's it? Oh, how's it going, Dylan?"
That's a good Joe Jones impression.
Yeah. Oh, Dylan. What's up?
Well, you write a lot of your films. You don't like have a team that writes with you and like that, right? You the kind of idea kind of originates with you, and you write for the most part. But you do work on other projects we'll talk about too. But there's certain elements that you check that has to check the box for you in order to pursue an idea to make it a great screenplay. Because I feel, having run a film festival and work with many filmmakers, that's always kind of the Achilles heel for a film. It's usually not the talent. It's usually not the bag of tricks, so to speak. I mean, sure, if it's bad sound or something like that, that's a technical thing, and you can chalk that up to just not doing what you should have been doing. But usually, the fault, dear Brutus, is in the story, not ourselves. It seems to go off the phrase. So do you have any things you look for when you're writing your screenplays?
Yeah, it's funny. I think part of the work of an artist is you have these instincts. Hopefully you have these directions that you're pulled in instinctually, and you're like, I find this stuff interesting. Like, for example, I'm finding that a lot of my stories feature homeless people and or a homeless character or an intentionally homeless character. And I've always had even more ideas than I've made that involve something. I'm like, why? You don't necessarily know why. I don't even necessarily know why that. But so some of the work is to then, over the years, try to articulate and figure out why you're drawn to those things. Because if you can figure out the why, then it's easier to kind of be intentional about the things you choose, and it just is helpful to know trust your instincts, but also somewhat know why the instincts are there. So mine are, I've realized, and especially now, like trying to combine things that are feel very real and grounded and realistic and real with things that feel magical. So to kind of the contrast between those and the dance between those. And I always liked fantasy and sci-fi and those kind of genres. But I also like dramas and character-based stories.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's what I'm drawn to. And I also feel like I don't see enough of that, where you see either the Disney, Marvel, very Hollywood magic, which is also fun. I enjoy a lot, Harry Potter. And then you go and you see the gritty 45-minute short film that's just about a guy living in a house. And those are both great, but I kind of feel like the combination is something you don't see a lot. And to try to bring like gritty realism or groundedness to like some kind of magic. So I think that's kind of a thread.
The heightened realism, maybe some magical realism in there as well to kind of combine both the ideas.
Magical realism or straight up magic. And that's describes some of the ideas I'm working towards in the future too, and also getting more and more into special effects. And like, luckily, I actually find that stuff really fun to do. So if I'm able, I'm like year by year trying to get better at the actual technical CGI and all that, so that I can pull off what I'm describing, pull off that magic part of it. And hopefully that will be, you also have to ask yourself what's going to like catch people's attention, that's going to stand out a little bit. And maybe that shouldn't be your starting point, but it's got to come into the conversation. So I think that's one thing. If there could be special effects, but they're not Marvel, they're something different.
And learning how to or if not being able to execute the special effects, your working knowledge of it informs perhaps the way you're kind of storyboarding. Right? In a way saying, I could possibly do it this way.
Yeah.
Or find someone to do it this way, because I know it can be done, even though I just don't have time to figure it out.
I'm waiting for the day where I could pay someone, so all I have to do is figure it out and let someone else. But that day is yet to come.
You're on your way, though, I feel. You're on your way.
And try to use camera tricks, too, like in the tunnel. A lot of it's just, shooting Joe with the most depth of field as possible, or the shallowest depth of field as possible, to kind of like match the other. So it's not all super advanced, but it's just having a knowledge. I'm a nerd for it, so it's fun.
But that's magic in itself, knowing those tricks, right?
Yeah. It feels like that sometimes. That's the fun.
Well, like I said, that was your first film at the festival, but you've gone on to collaborate with local filmmakers, Brian Miller, one, Adam Elliott, another, to create multiple works, such as The First Time I Saw You, another one of yours, Best Man, which was, I believe, originated with Adam, and then currently Giant, which originated with Brian, I believe. You guys seem to create a team that's pushing out all kinds of great work. How important is it to have like a team of people you can go to support each other's ideas and be able to bring them all to life? Like, you all bring something different to the table that support each of your point of views. It's pretty special.
Yeah. And I gotta give a shout out here to Inwood Artworks, because we met, Adam and I met on stage being interviewed by Brian Lair as part of the film festival. Mm-hmm. And then we just, I think, had coffee a week later, and now we've made like, I don't know, 5 or 6 projects together. We're working on new things. We're going to be shooting a little short documentary of Adam's in a few weeks. We got new things in the works. So I've always been kind of looking for it, because it's not only is it a collaborative artwork medium, and it's fun to collaborate, you kind of need it. It's just a lot of work, and you need different perspectives, like Brian, for instance, is just like one of those people that I could bring anything to, and he'll always have some new insight into it, see it from a different angle, and often like immediately, like, you're like, it's the classic thing, you're like alone in a room for weeks or months, and you're like trying to figure this thing out all by yourself, and you're like, I don't want to show anyone yet till it's done. Okay, I'll show Brian, and he'll immediately be like, great, it's great, this, and this, and you're like, I didn't see that. Those are exactly the things that are needed. So, we all could think we could do it all alone, but we none of us can.
Stronger together, and the complement to each other skills.
Yeah, and Brian's also whiz with production. Like we've talked about this, me and him, a few times, but I'm realizing year by year that I'm not built for production. I will endure it, but I'm just my skills aren't. But he's like a kind of a gentle soldier during production. He's just like someone who will not tired, give him like a 15-hour day, which he tried not to do, but he won't show any tiredness or anything. And he just knows the gear. He's a great cinematographer.
Gotcha. So looking forward to all these projects coming out. Sounds great. Sounds really great.
Yeah, sometimes there's too many, but you know how it is.
I do. Well, that's a good problem to have, I feel. I feel it'd be a missed opportunity if we discuss the interview captured with former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much of a story there other than, I don't know if I should say that, but he was pretty crotchety.
Was he really?
Yeah,
I met him once myself. That's why I was kind of curious. It had to be thrilling to meet him, though.
It was surreal.
He's of a different generation, obviously.
Yeah, he was a little bit mean. He's a little bit mean, I won't lie. What was he like when you met him?
He was quiet. Maybe I caught him after lunch or something. He was ready for a nap. I'm not quite sure. But do you know he's from Washington Heights, though?
He is?
He is,
Oh,
yeah. Around Fort Triumph Park, like the 190th area of the world.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And did he
That's the reason why I really wanted to
immigrate
bring it up.
here, or was he born here?
I think, I don't want to speak out of turn, but he still has that accent. So I thought almost he's part. I don't think he was born here. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say. I wish I had the Wikipedia knowledge of going. Oh, it was this date. They moved all here. All that, but no, I think they came over.
Yeah. But I remember Brian was with me on that shoot actually, and we were trying to put a lav microphone on him, and it was just this. And we had 15 minutes with him. He's like 15 minutes, and he kept reminding us throughout, like, you have 15 minutes for this entire window of time, not just for the interview. And he's like,
not just for the lav mic.
So we were having trouble with the lav mic, which is trouble is just like 2 or 3 minutes, but it's 2 or 3 minutes out of the total of 15 minutes. So he got, like, there was just this awkward silence for like 3 minutes as Brian's trying to get this lav mic on Henry Kissinger.
That's a good story.
Yeah, and I think he kind of snapped at us once. Sorry if I'm bad-mouthing an American hero.
It's not at all.
Something.
It's just kind of like, this is, I think it's refreshing because listen, you're a filmmaker and production we're talking about here, literally. So I think there's lessons to be learned in all this. People, I feel like half this podcast is educational for people listening to it for the first time.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of interviewing for work too, and a lot. More of the, you probably could attest to that, but more of the art is not less the like filming of it. It's more of like getting the person comfortable and like making them feel like it's a real conversation, which could be a challenge.
Exactly.
Do you have any tips?
Right now, for
instance. Yeah. How are you getting?
You didn't even know that, did you?
I feel so calm. How are you?
You actually.
Are you rolling?
The thing is that. Oh, yes, we are.
Oh my God! I didn't even realize. I thought we were just talking.
Exactly. See, that's the thing. It's like, you have to set the standards and you let the people believe what they want to believe and just keep it going. And he had never. He thinks we're beginning right now.
Yeah. Oh, okay. We're starting.
Exactly.
Do you have any tips or tricks interviewing?
Actually, my tips and tricks. Tricks sounds like it's like so disingenuous when you say tricks. It's like it's like say tricks like we didn't want you here, but now you're here. We're going to make you comply with our.
How are you tricking me right now?
By keeping you engaged.
Okay. Yeah.
But not. I think the best thing to say is that don't prepare and don't think. I always have people, and you didn't do that either. But there are people who are very. I literally got an email this morning from someone who said to me, who I invited to be on the podcast. He goes, "I don't feel comfortable pouring out my soul." I go, I don't think we're going to get that far, but if that's the kind of conversation you really want to have, I go, it's probably best we don't talk at all, because that's a little heavy for me, and like you should probably go see a priest or a therapist, because that's really, I mean, it was just like a 3-line email saying, hey, and I know this person, and I was just like, hey, you're really great, and would be love to have you on the podcast, and I think you'd be really a great guest. And that was like silence for a couple of days, and then I'm just like, whoa. All right. I said, some things it's better off.
Yeah, I don't.
So my point is like the first bag of tricks is avoid people who really, you don't want to push people into anything that they aren't comfortable in doing.
Yeah, and artists often. I was listening to that new podcast, newish, with Bruce Springsteen and President Barack Obama. Speaking of American political figures. And Obama says like, "Oh, Bruce, when I met you, actually, you seem pretty shy guy. I was surprised." And Bruce is like, yeah, well, I mean, we artists tend to be shy. And the reason we become artists often is because there's a pain in not being able to express yourself and speak for yourself. And the art is that comes out of that. So I think we can be shy. I usually don't volunteer too much. I'm more on that side, but if there's a setting like this and there's a reason, and obviously I'm here to talk about myself, so it's not that hard. But a lot of artists probably, it's hard to get there.
It can be. Well, thank you for agreeing to be on this. I appreciate it. But
we speak with the art sometimes.
Well, and I think that's also the other thing too, is that it's not so much about you, it's so much about what you do. And I feel like with my background as an artist from so many years, I feel it's a part of you. And so you are talking about a part of yourself indirectly by talking about your art. I think that's an easy way for people to open up a little more and feel better about who they are. And then you get some real feelings out of that, I feel.
Right, right. And since it's often these arts are collaborative, that like it doesn't feel like it's just about me. It's let's say it's one of the films. It's I'm like the signpost for it, but there's a lot of people involved. So yeah, it's you can talk about the other people too.
Well, let's talk about the collaboration you did, your book, the Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming. Am I right to summarize, and I mean summary like 3-4 words, like it's a practical guide to controlling dreams?
Yeah. And we use the word control because it's an easy shorthand word, but then we try to also tell people control maybe isn't quite the right word, because even if you have a lot of mastery. So lucid dreaming is you go to, just a background, you go to bed and you could do these kind of like almost hacks during your daytime hours to kind of prepare yourself for a lucid dream and sort of train your brain and your consciousness to wake up in your dream. And that's eventually what you're able to do. You could be in a dream and then look around and say, I think this might be a dream. And then you kind of test it using a reality check, they call it. And then you realize you're in a dream. And it's a very surreal moment. And most people who haven't had that experience kind of doubt. I was doubtful that it actually happens. And you're like, are you sure that happened? And then you have it and you're like, yeah, it's real. And there's a big subculture around it. There's a big community of tens of thousands of people in the world who do it and read books on it and share techniques and come up with techniques. So yeah, the word control, we're getting to the point where we hopefully can influence the dream, and it's really profound to like fly or make something levitate or change locations entirely and control all that. Make a choice, yeah. But you're not controlling the entire. There's still like your subconscious or whatever is still influencing.
You're not manufacturing the dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You're participating in the dream.
Yeah.
Maybe a better participating instead of controlling.
Yeah.
You're participating in it.
It's sort of like you're a sailboat and you could steer the sailboat, but you're not making the whole ocean.
Correct.
The metaphor we use.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating, and I don't want to go too far and deep in the weeds about it because people should read it. It's on Amazon and other things too. So make the boy some money over here. Buy his book.
Yeah. Buy a copy. Make me 23 cents.
Jeff Bezos makes a lot more, apparently.
No, please. If you haven't experienced that and it sounds fun, you should try it out just for the experience of. Even if you've have one in your life, people really seem changed by it. So I recommend it highly.
Well, speaking about changing things, as far as once you make a film, you have to, or a book, or project in general, you have a choice to either let it sit on the shelf, or you have to market it. You have to get it out there, and not everyone's great about doing that. So, what advice can you give to writers and filmmakers out there who are trying to find ways to get their projects noticed?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the best person I'm a good person to ask about that because it's challenging for me and I could talk to that challenge, but I can't necessarily talk to the way to succeed, because if you figured that out, please let me know.
But you're actually facing it over and over again.
Yeah, I have the one thing I'm trying to overcome is, I have the instinct of just once something's done, jump into the next thing, because that's what's fun for me, and that's the joy and the passion is to make the thing. And the marketing feels overwhelming to me, so I'm trying to push against that. But part of it's kind of like feels good when I do take the time to market myself, because I think the more it's comfortable, right, for me to be in the art, make a piece of art, and then just share that. or just put out there a little bit into the world. And it's comfortable for me to make it because I'm just by myself a lot of the time or with other friends. But it's a lot more challenging and vulnerable to put out there in the world. But I think that's why I need to. So, I mean, it's tricky for the short film world because film festivals, as all filmmakers know, can be disheartening. Getting into the festivals, paying all the money to apply to them. Once you're in them, you show up. What comes out of that? Is it what, there's obviously no way to get back money you've spent on it. So people could become intimidated by that. And I mean, I think the first answer is just like, I do all this because it's fun and I love to do it. So take off the pressure of this being a road to success anyway. Hopefully success could come from it, but I don't think it's going to come from putting like pressure and making certain ideas just because we think they're especially marketable, but we're not that passionate about them. Marketing could come in to even the writing process or the outline, something that might grab people's attention. Like I said, I have a feeling that like magic and something with special effects is going to be more attention grabbing, but I happen to really also love that stuff. So I think it's got to obviously start with what you're the burning passion, and then let the other stuff either be way in the background. But then when it comes time to doing it, I'm not so great at, so I'm still figuring that out. It helps to hook up with other people. Like Adam has more of a proclivity for that. I think he's submitted our film A Best Man, which he wrote and produced. He did a great job coming up with that film, and then he's done a great job marketing it. I think he's submitted to 100 film festivals, which is thousands of dollars, and he just believes in something and the people he's worked with, and he really puts things out there, and he'll have ideas. I don't know if this is a public idea, but why not? He for the Tribeca Film Festival, for this mission there, he had the movie's about a wedding. He had a wedding cake made, and then he hand delivered the wedding cake to the Tribeca Film Festival office with little figurines on top. And the only person in the office that day happened to be the programmer, so he handed the cake to the person. And the person was like, I do remember your film. I'll take note of this. We did not get into Tribeca Film Festival, but you got to really respect
and
that.
You got a great story out of it.
You got to respect that. So I guess the advice would be work with people like Adam who have an idea, who have these ideas.
Well, the thing is, like, and then going back to my acting days, it's all about being remembered. I think in many ways too, and you're not necessarily submitting as like auditioning in a way for a role when you're an actor versus submitting for film festivals, like you're auditioning for the festival in a way. Except you're showing the final product. Auditioning, you're showing potential to be obviously in a show, and I think it's pretty amazing that you're giving a calling card. So next time it comes around, perhaps it's the next film, perhaps it's 2 films down the line. Adam Toe, Dylan, I remember that film, the cake. Oh, the cake, and so there's some things that kind of stick out, and I think we're human, and I remember writing postcards to people, telling people about what I was doing, and then the show I was coming up, and why I'd be right for their next show, because my show is like their show in some way, and you hope, not necessarily. Sometimes it goes right in the garbage, or does it make it to most of the time? Listen, you get your 3 or 4 seconds in front of them, whatever. They remember, and then they toss it. But it's that FaceTime, right? It's that presence, and we're human. We do file things away.
Yeah, I like that. That there's a long game there, and also the, maybe it's naive, but I have like this idea that if you make something that's the best, like you make something of a certain quality, or that just really gets your soul, like whatever your soul across, your passion across. If you make something that's good enough that it can't almost be ignored. So one marketing strategy is just to try to make things that are really, really, really good. And maybe obviously the art world can be corrupt, and that doesn't mean someone who's just really good at talking the talk might do better even than someone who just makes an insanely good film. But I know how to make movies, I don't necessarily know the talking, so that I'll play to my own skills. And maybe it's sort of like, I'm going to just do what I do and try to get better and better and better. And hopefully that also lines up with the goal of getting seen. But that's why the Inwood Film Festival is so cool. It's not just a one-time, one-year, one-off thing. It's just coming back to the same community over and over. And I'm not part of any other community like that in the film world. So to know, okay, I'm always going to have a place here, and I'm always going to see familiar faces. And then, I get to see what this filmmaker is working on this year. It's not just this kind of isolated, lonely kind of one-off thing, and you network with a few people in a room once and you never see them again. It's a community. So
what makes a good film festival?
I mean that.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you, but
the feeling,
in general, though.
the engendering of community. I mean, the good ones I've been to have that community vibe, and they just seem like they care a lot. The programmers show up, they talk, they care about the films, the community. You could just see how much work they put in, compared to, like, we were at a film festival a couple months ago in Manhattan, and no programmer showed up to the screening. No one talked before it. We didn't really have a sense of where we could, like, even network or talk to other people. It was just kind of a screening, and you show up and the movie comes on. So there's a feeling there where there's the absence of that. And yeah, I think just a feeling of community.
Great way to end it. Well, Dylan, it's been a pleasure speaking with you here. Before we say goodbye, where can people go to find out more about your work?
My website is my name, DylanTuccillo.com. It's Tuccillo, 2 C's, 2 L's. Yeah, my email address is on the site if you want to email me about any ideas. We always want to find collaborators, and if you feel like you want to become part of the film world and want to collaborate, or can give out a grant or a donation, we're interested in working with people, or you yourself have a script or an idea, let us know. Or any questions. Yeah,
we'll put that link in our description of the episode here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You betcha, Dylan. Thank you again for joining me on this Artist Spotlight edition of Inwood Artworks On Air. It's where we meet the musicians, filmmakers, writers, theater makers, and artists of all stripes that make their home here in Upper Manhattan. If you have a moment, please show us some love right now by rating and reviewing this podcast on Apple Podcasts. That really does help. Many thanks to Church of the Good Shepherd here for hosting us, and to HeightSites.com for uptown promotional support. You can support On Air and all of our programming here by making a tax-free donation at inwoodartworks.nyc/donate or via Venmo. Be sure to follow us on social media at Inwood Artworks to keep up all that we do, which includes the Inwood Film Festival, Filmworks Al Fresco, pop-up art galleries, and so much more. Inwood Artworks On Air is proud to be supported in part by public funds from the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs in partnership with the City Council. From the top of Manhattan and the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for tuning in. This is Aaron Sims for Inwood Artworks On Air.